Welcome into the Friday, February 14th edition. Your drive begins now on ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930. I'm your host, Paul Swann. You can join the program anytime by calling the Miller Lite phone lines, 877-420-TALK. That is 877-420-8255. Miller Lite, hold true, great taste, only 96 calories. It is the original light beer. Well, what do we got coming up tonight? Well, of course, first of all, because, I have to. It's sort of like this obligation. Happy Valentine's Day. Happy Valentine's Day. And now that I've got that obligation out of the way, let us get to the business at hand here. It was not a good Valentine's Day Eve for the Thundering Herd yesterday, as Marshall losing to UTSA 72-63. So we're going to break that down here in a moment. Also, we have got possible seeding scenarios. We're going to know everything by Saturday evening where the Herd is going to start. If they're going to be a 6 seed, 7 seed, 8 seed. There actually are some scenarios. They could be a 6 seed. So I've got those down. We'll talk about those a little bit with the standings here in a few minutes. And, of course, coming up a little bit later on the program, we've got Huntington Mayor Steve Williams. He'll be joining us earlier today. The State of the City address took place. There's some things we're going to talk to him specifically, a little bit more geared towards Marshall and sports related, about the baseball stadium construction. We're going to talk a little bit about that. The ACF industrial properties. We're going to talk a little bit about that here. There's also some opportunities there to find out a little bit more about the Huntington Opportunity Zone. That stuff's adjacent to Marshall. Really not my forte. The politics, the city government, not my forte. So I'll try to let Steve lead me a little bit on this one because I just want to talk baseball stadium. That's it. I want to talk baseball stadium and how all of this is going to make Marshall better. That stuff interests me, so we're going to talk to him about that. And, of course, we'll get your phone calls in, 877-420-TALK, 877-420-8255. Look, I was getting to you. Spencer Dupuis giving me the why aren't you saying my name look. Our intern for the summer, getting sort of his prerequisite out of the way now, doing the show today with us on this Friday. Yes, Spencer, I don't even want to talk to you. You clipped the beginning of the show on the recording. Why am I talking to you?
Hey, that's on you. You asked
that's not
me how
on me.
long something was, so I had to look down. I could have pressed it. I was ready to press it.
If you recorded the show 2 minutes early and then edited, you wouldn't have had that problem. Gosh.
I just thought I was precise.
So that was your mistake right now. Person. I control your grade, and you're already blaming me for something.
You're right.
Yeah.
Stop.
Thank you. Hey, Marshall women won yesterday. All seriousness, and it's very hard with Spencer to be all serious, but all seriousness aside here, the Marshall women won last night. Tony Kemper went 14 minutes in his postgame. We're not going to run 14 minutes of Tony Kemper. I love Tony Kemper, but I'd rather just have Tony in studio with me or on the phone with me. What did he say in his postgame? He was happy.
Is he number one yet? Is he number one?
Coaching-wise?
Yeah, on your rank.
He's right there. Him and Ari. He's right there. He won, so he's right there. Turn your microphone on.
He's won. She's won. He's 1A. Is that correct?
We've got a couple more days to go here.
So you want to know what he said?
Yes, I want to know what he said. Spencer, you're killing the show here.
Well,
the vibe is dying right now.
A solid win. It wasn't perfect. It was good enough to win. Obviously, the Herd needed it. They're looking to move in the right direction, and they were perfect from the line. 15 of 15. So perfection from the line. That really was what was the major key for the win. 66-53 win, and UTSA was 7 of 13 from the line. So
I like how you're giving me those like visual cues, like that translates to radio. You're just shrugging your shoulders here. All right, we're going to work. This is an internship for young Spencer. He is a broadcast student at Marshall University, and so he needs this internship to graduate. And so I'm going to make sure he knows that every single time he's in the studio with me, that he needs this internship to graduate. And we'll go from there. Right now, you're in free time, though. This is an impact. Even though you messed up the recording and a couple other things, this doesn't impact the grade right now. It's practice.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I'm just here out of my own free will.
And I appreciate that. So that's why I'm not, going to hold it against you come grade time. So the Thundering Herd, the men, we're going to really break into that and give you kind of an idea of where Marshall messed up. One thing to keep in mind is Marshall couldn't hit anything for a long time. I think at one point they were 1 of 21 in that second half. They were having difficulties shooting. I saw this floated on the internet yesterday, that free throw shooting got the Herd again. Are you kidding me? Free throw shooting. Yeah, I know. Let's run it down individually. Here's what Marshall did from the free throw line. Andrew Taylor, 0 of 3. Tavion Kinsey, 2 of 4. Jansen Williams, 1 of 3. Jared West. I'm sorry, I'm looking at three-point shots. So let me back this up a little bit. Yeah, that makes a little bit more sense here. All right. Kinsey was 5 of 7. Bennett, 0 of 1. Jansen, 2 of 2. Jared, 4 and 9. And that's it. That's your free throw shooting, 11 of 19. I knew I'd look in the wrong column when I got to Jared, and he was 1 of 8. And no, that's from the three-point line. They were 6 of 28 from the three-point line. That's not good. 6 of 28. Jared, 5 of 18, 1 of 8 from the three-point line. He had 15 points. Jansen Williams, a little bit better showing for him, 2 of 6, 7 points. He hit both his free throws, as we mentioned. Jansen had 3 steals. Jared had 2. Jansen had 3. Jansen had 2 blocks. The Herd had 11 blocks.
Moving up the list for blocks.
Yeah. Are you keeping track of that still?
It's kind of. I don't know the number right now.
Okay, so don't mention it until you have numbers for me. Come on, man. You got to be prepared. If you bring something up, you got to have that knowledge in front of you here. All right, 11 blocks. That's good for the Thundering Herd. UTSA had 2. I mean, really, let's keep this in perspective here. UTSA scored 72 points, but in the first half they shot 13 of 39. Second half, 11 of 41. 11 of 41. If Marshall can hit a few more shots, Marshall's got this game. Because UTSA didn't do anything out there that was spectacular. Javon Jackson had 25 points. He was going to get his. Held him under his average. Keaton Wallace, 13. You held him. Other than that, you didn't have really anybody else. You had some role players. Nobody else got into double digits. And now you have the number.
Yeah, I got it. So he's at 139 career, jumps past Derek Wright, who he tied last weekend. And then he also jumps past Tom Curry, so he is in 5th place all-time, 1 away from Charles Jones at 4th place, and 9 away from Omar Rowland in 3rd place.
All right. We're going to break this one down further, and, of course, we will get your phone calls in a little bit later on. We're going to become a little bit more serious as the show progresses. The mayor of Huntington, Steve Williams, is going to be joining us on the program. Maybe later on I'll get your tweets at Paul Swann. I want to know, do you want Spencer Dupuis on this radio show? Not board hopping, not engineering, just actually participating on this radio show. We're going to find out. Do the people want you? Do they care enough, Spencer? Are you messing their Friday up? We're going to find out, and we'll take your phone calls as well, as we mentioned, at 877-420-TALK, 877-420-8255. Don't worry, Spencer. They sometimes don't want me on the show as well, so it's okay. It's all right, but I'm the host of the show. I'm not going anywhere. You, on the other hand, we'll find out. More on the way. As I said, we're going to become it's Friday. We can have fun. We're having fun on a Friday, but we're going to ramp it up here a little bit. We're going to talk some of the scenarios for Marshall when it comes to the seeding and the pod Group 2. We're going to talk about that, look at the Conference USA standings when we continue here on ESPN 94.1.
You're listening to The Drive with Paul Swann on ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930.
Welcome back to the Friday edition of The Drive. Paul Swann, your host. Let's get the show back on track. Marshall losing last night, so that set up some scenarios. Group 1 is now not happening. Marshall had an opportunity last night. They could have found themselves in a scenario where they could have been in Group 1. But here's the standings right now. Conference USA. North Texas is 11-2. They're Group 1. Western Kentucky is 10-3. They're Group 1. Louisiana Tech's 9-4. They're going to be Group 1. So here's where it kind of here's where everything else, there's going to be a little interchange. FIU, Charlotte, they're 8-5. Old Dominion 7-6. UAB is 6-7. Florida Atlantic is 6-7. UTSA 6-7. Marshall 6-7. So they're 10th right now if you just go by this standing. And UTEP is 4-9. Rice 4-9. Southern Miss 4-9. Middle Tennessee 2-11. So those are the 4 teams at the bottom: UTEP, Rice, Southern Miss, Middle Tennessee. They're all going to be locked in Pod 3 or Group 3, however Conference USA wants to really reference this. And so Group 2 is going to be Marshall, UTSA, Florida Atlantic, UAB, Old Dominion. That's what it looks like right now. Now, here are some scenarios, and this isn't 100% official, but it's pretty close. I've been talking to a couple of people at Marshall, just kind of get a feel for, okay, where's this going to go? And if ODU wins, they're 6th. That's pretty much a lock, as far as I understand it. ODU wins, they're going to be 8-6. And they're in. They're 6. So, if Marshall wins and everybody else loses, Marshall wins, and all these other teams lose, Marshall is the 6th seed. Now, there's another scenario in which if Marshall loses, Marshall's the 10th seed. Doesn't matter what anyone else does. Marshall loses, they're the 10th seed. And if Marshall has a shot at the 7th seed, now, I had to double check this one. Okay, here's the scenario: 7th spot. Marshall wins. ODU loss. UTSA, UAB, or FAU wins, and the other 2 loses. So, what that means is if FAU wins and UTSA and UAB lose, and Marshall wins, 7th spot. There's so many tiebreakers, it's making my head hurt. Just a little bit. I don't like bonus play. I do not like bonus play. It's not beneficial to Conference USA. I understand where they were coming from. They want to make sure that they secure the best possible resume for their top teams. The problem is that there's not really a good resume here, and this isn't going to secure any of these teams an at-large selection. If North Texas wins the conference, they're going to the tournament. No one else from this group is going to the NCAA tournament. Now, if, say, Western Kentucky, if they win the tournament and North Texas wins conference regular season, North Texas is going to the NIT, and nobody else here is going to the NCAA tournament. Yes, I'm looking at you, Spencer. You've been waving to talk in the mic.
What I think is weird is you have this system going, and then you look at the latest bracketology for the women's tournament, and there's 3 Conference USA women's teams currently in the bracketology, the ESPN bracketology for the NCAA tournament.
Because women's basketball is regarded higher nationally in Conference USA as compared to men's basketball.
They aren't doing pod play.
They're having their regular season. They're going to wrap that up, and then they're going to go to the tournament. But, again, the women and the men, they do things differently. I mean, they're going to quarters in women's basketball. So they're doing things different on the women's side. But, again, it doesn't really – I don't think you can compare. There's not an analog there because it doesn't matter how good the women are. The men's side is still where the tournament is looking – for at-large bids for the men's side, and just not going to see it happen because North Texas are 11-2 conference, but they're 17-9 overall. They really don't have a major signature win. There's not really resume builder there. Same thing with Western Kentucky. Same thing with Louisiana Tech. I mean, they're good in conference, but rest of the way, not so much. And Conference USA is a one-bid league. One-bid league. That's it. That's all you get in Conference USA, one-bid league. Okay, from Twitter. I like this. Actually, I got a Twitter response here. I like this. Okay. This is this. Well, I'm gonna qualify this. This is from the Sports Information Office at Marshall. Outside, outside almost in. I don't know what title to give her, but here's an idea for the show. Triple S, Swann, Sid, and blank We will definitely have to find a third S. Could Spencer do it, or do we not like him that much? I'm looking. I think I found my third S. Not you, Spencer. Sorry. Look.
Wow.
Yeah. There's right now. I have to wait to see what the eligibility after she's done with golf. But
wow.
There's a young lady on the golf team. She has S in her name, Stormy.
She goes back to Texas though. She can't be on your show.
We can do Skype.
Or she could Comrex her and pay a Comrex.
I mean, we can do Skype. Come on, we'll figure it out here. So, by the way, we're having fun on this Friday here, just because of the fact that it is Friday. And to be honest with you, I need some uplifting after that game last night. I actually need some uplifting because of the mere fact that Marshall had an opportunity here, and I don't know how to get this team ready to go. I don't have the answer. I don't know what it's going to take because you look at Marshall last year, they got a little hot towards the end. They had a situation in where maybe the schedule wasn't kind to them, and Dan D'Antoni gave them a break. And then they came back, they were rejuvenated, and they won. And they were going in with some momentum. Even though they didn't get into the top group, they had some momentum. They're not having momentum right now. There's no momentum going into this. You're looking at the standings, and I mean, there is a scenario here for Marshall. They could be 6th, they could be 7th, they could be 10th. I mean, there's no middle ground here. It's either 6th or 10th. I don't think that 7th one's a possibility. I mean, too many things have got to happen to make that a possibility. So if Marshall loses, they're 10th automatically. If Marshall wins and everyone else loses, they're 6th. If ODU wins, they're 6th, and Marshall's in scrapping for everything else. So that's where we stand right now. But this group system, I don't think it's beneficial because say Marshall did get hot. If Marshall got hot, Marshall could make a run for a higher seed. And now you can say that now they're going to make a run for a higher seed. If they finish 10th and then they go and play these 4 games and they get hot, they're going to improve their seed. But there's no really chance for them to, say, grab a 5th seed. And if North Texas stumbles here, they're the number 1 team in the conference, and then they stumble a little bit, they're going to drop down a little bit. And, of course, that's going to happen anyway. The difference here is with this group play, they're trying to protect North Texas. Because if North Texas stumbles, then it's not that big of a stumble because it's to theoretically higher-ranked opponents in the group. And Western Kentucky, Louisiana Tech, FIU, and Charlotte are definitely going to be higher ranked than, say, a last week loss to Rice. You lose to Rice, that's a resume killer right there at this point. And I get that. You're trying to protect North Texas and the top teams like that from the Rices of Conference USA right now, and the Southern Misses of Conference USA, and the Middle Tennessees of Conference USA. That's what you're trying to do right now. You're trying to protect these top teams from these lower teams that could potentially upset, but at the same time, it's a flawed formula just because of the fact that you can't really crunch the numbers, massage the numbers, and game your way into an at-large bid. You got to go play tough opponents. You got to win some quality games. That's how you get into the top pod, or that's how you get an at-large bid. And Conference USA right now, top to bottom, doesn't have the resume of a top 20. I mean, has anyone been featured in the top 25 in Conference USA? No. Nobody's looking at Conference USA right now. It's not getting much. And you're going to have conferences like the Big Ten probably grab 8, 9, 10 slots. Who knows? ACC is going to grab several slots. And the NIT is not a guarantee anyway now, because if you win your conference in the regular season and you lose your tournament, you're going to take a spot. But if Western Kentucky finishes 2nd in conference and they go to the tournament and maybe lose in a championship game, maybe there's a chance. But again, there are going to be slots that are filled up in that NIT. It's not that easy because you're going to take some of the higher profile teams that maybe didn't get in from the ACC, from the Big Ten, from the SEC, from the Big 12. You're going to take some of those teams. And so it's kind of, mean, I applaud him for trying, but let's get this thing over with so we can go back to more of a regular way of playing basketball. All right.
The CIT.
This is why I had a rule one time. I don't let producers speak. They're not going to the CIT. It's not a possibility because they're going to have to pay their way in.
You saw the success of Marshall last year. Some team might want to go in if they get a bid.
Well, CIT is not an option for Marshall. CBI, CIT. And I'll tell you why, because I don't think Marshall's going to spend the money again because you don't have a John Elmore chasing a record. You don't have are you going to get into the CIT to get the steal record for Jared West?
He doesn't need it. He's got next year.
Exactly. Are you going to get into that? Because John needed an extra game to get the record, and Marshall, as an institution, as an athletic department, felt like, hey, you know what? Get this guy a game. Let's get this guy a game, see what happens, and then Marshall goes and wins the whole thing. And it was a fun run, but I don't think that's going to happen again because Marshall wants to get into minimum the NIT. Minimum. Actually, I don't think that's the minimum. I'm thinking NCAA's Dan's mind, and if they go to the NIT, well, that's okay too because he has fond memories of the NIT. So that's where that's at. All right, we're going to turn our attention to politics a little bit, but we're going to tie it into sports when we continue. We got to be on our best behavior, Spencer. Okay, so you best behavior. The mayor's coming in. We'll do that when we continue here on today's edition of The Drive, ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930.
Now, back to The Drive with Paul Swann on ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930.
Welcome back to the February 14th edition here, ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930. Paul Swann, your host. Spencer Dupuis, our producer. I don't know how much longer.
Does he have a voice?
Hey, good job.
I have a voice now. Here we go. Now you hear
Good
me.
job. You turned the microphone on for yourself and the mayor. 'Cause usually,
I blame the sticky program button.
blaming the hardware.
Well, he's becoming very astute. Always blame it on somebody else.
Exactly. Good job. Good job. Do you think he has a career in politics?
Actually, I was going to say he needs to come work at City Hall.
Huntington Mayor Steve Williams is with us, and this morning the State of the City address. And, of course, we always try to bring Steve in to talk a little bit about it. For the past few years, I've been just hammering him nonstop about baseball. Now I don't have that to hold over his head. He actually thinks this is more of a pleasant visit now since I don't have
I figure you're saying, all right, when's the first game?
Well, no, you can't control that.
Oh!
You can't control that.
Let's write
I saw
this
some
one
ground.
down.
I saw ground. I drove by it. There's ground being broken.
Yeah.
I saw that.
Yeah.
That's progress.
Yeah. Actually, what has been a joy in this, working with Mike Hamrick on this, it does help that we were teammates 40-plus years ago and went against each other every day in practice. But working with him on this has been wonderful. Now, you do remember what he said when I first became mayor about this? Do you remember what he said to you on the air? Because I brought up about that we have to build a baseball stadium, and he said, well, he's a mayor. He has to say that.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
I have held on to that. I have held on to that, wanting to get back to this show and say, okay, I might have been mayor, and I am still mayor, and we're getting a baseball stadium built.
Okay,
There's
so
such a thing as called vision.
Campaign promise met. Okay. All right.
I didn't even say that. Vision.
I'm saying it. I'm saying because you were out here saying, look, before I'm done, there's going to be a baseball park.
You know what's funny is the first term that I was in office and I was running for re-election 4 years ago, and someone said, called the office and said, he said that before he left office that he'd be building a baseball stadium. Where is it? And my assistant who was on the phone said, well, he hasn't left office yet.
Good point.
It did take longer than what we expected.
Right.
But miracle of miracles, 2.5 years ago, almost 3 years ago, really, in May, early May, I got a phone call from a broker saying that Flint Pigments was up for sale. That wasn't even in the equation. We were talking about the ACF property. Flint Pigments was up for sale, and we were immediately going after that. As soon as they said that came up, and then it wasn't 2 weeks later that I had a meeting in New York, meeting with the owners of ACF, and at that time we agreed. Now we had Flint Pigments that they would entertain working with us on selling us ACF. It took us 2.5 years to get that done. It took nearly 2 years to get the Flint Pigments property sold and then transferred over to Marshall. All this tells you is that anybody who's been paying attention to us, we've been dealing with other people's property all this time. And then when people were and you were asking, I didn't have any property remember I kept saying, if we own the property, we can do something.
Yeah, you own the property.
We just didn't expect which property that we were going to be able to own. And still there are so many hoops for us to jump through, so many bases to run over before this is done. But it's a good start. And now that we have ACF, what's amazing with that is that this starts to complete that which we were talking about when I first came in, becoming a mini Indianapolis. We have the softball complex. We'll have a baseball complex. We have the soccer complex. You have the indoor practice facility and all that happens there. Really, in the back of my mind, I still want us to see an outdoor track. I'd love to see an outdoor track because then you could also have a stadium built, have lacrosse and some other things on there with it. But the whole idea is with Marshall and then what we have done at the arena down here, Mike has already helped us make a big run after interscholastic tournaments here in baseball. Now, the way that they're building the baseball stadium is they're building it so that it will be eligible for not only minor league baseball, but for regional baseball tournaments. Now, we're in the Conference USA, in Conference USA. Conference USA is one of the preeminent baseball conferences in the nation. This throws up Wagner. Coach Wags now has the opportunity with having his own field, his own facilities and everything. Watch Marshall start to march up and be in national contention in baseball. This is going to be great.
Yeah.
This is great. And hotels are being built. The developers who we're talking to, that area right there is just going to be so blessed dynamic because it's right next to Marshall. Marshall with the engineering school, biomedical engineering, the hospitals nearby. This is just so ripe. What's interesting is that the editorial today was talking about how the baby boomers, we still remember when we were the youngest people in the room. But as we were growing up, we were always thinking of how Huntington used to be.
Right, and I do that myself, and I'm not a boomer.
But you know something? The devil with the way it used to be. The interstate was built around the city. Thank goodness. Our neighborhoods are still intact. Manufacturing has changed. Technology has changed. What's about to happen in the next 5 to 7 years, people will not recognize. If nobody has ever been here for 5 to 10 years, they won't recognize coming down Hal Greer Boulevard. They won't recognize along 3rd Avenue and 5th Avenue. What's going to happen from Marshall University towards St. Mary's is going to be unbelievably different. And from Marshall on into the downtown is going to be unbelievably different. We're not on the precipice. It's starting to happen right now, and it's so unbelievably exciting. This is what we've been working on, but the wonderful thing is it's not something that we have to depend upon City Hall to do it, is that this is happening because we've become a regional medical center, because it's a research university. Marshall is a research university. Our proximity right along the Ohio River. You realize, Paul, that we're the fourth largest metro market along the Ohio River Valley? You have Pittsburgh, you have Cincinnati, you have Louisville, and there's us.
Not bad.
The next one after that is the Evansville, Indiana area. So particularly us between Cincinnati and Pittsburgh and along I-64 towards Lexington and Louisville, we are in an ideal area because the bad thing is that we don't have a large metro area like Columbus or Pittsburgh to be able to spill off of. But the nice thing is that as we grow, we create that foundation that we are creating, then that growth is just natural. And then what occurs here, they're going to be folks like he's going to be looking back saying, look at what those folks were able to do. Couldn't ask for a more blessed time to be able to be doing what we're doing right now.
And Spencer, if you do something amazing, the mayor will actually know your name next time.
I mean, he just met me. He knew me as the guy that didn't turn on the right button.
I'll even recognize the voice now.
Yeah. Hey, you know what? You made an impression, so he'll always remember you for not turning your microphone on.
Well, what's going to be interesting, I'm going to be somewhere where he's going to be doing a show, and that's going to be the one. Or have you pushed my button? Am I on?
Huntington Mayor Steve Williams is with us. We are going to take our final break, come back. We're going to talk a little bit more about the development around Marshall because there's a sports component to it.
Yeah.
Of course, the baseball park's not the only thing. I'm going to harass him a little bit about maybe a new convention center, possibly. I'm not going to ask him about hockey and ice because I know what the answer is going to be. Maybe. He's not saying anything. Next question.
He cut me off. I was saying my button was
nice. Good job.
Thanks, Vince.
We're going to wrap it up. And,
hey, it's on.
More on the way. It's The Drive, ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930.
This is The Drive with Paul Swann on ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930.
Welcome back to the Friday, February 14th edition of The Drive on ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930. Paul Swann, your host. I've got the mayor of Huntington, Steve Williams, with us, and I'm pouring through the speech right now. Look in here, going through all this. You've got everything from today's State of the City address. You're talking about, of course, all the improvements in the city of Huntington. You're looking at improvements as well with the big scene. I'm sorry, now the Mountain Health Network.
Mountain Health
it's
Network.
Still the Huntington Civic Center to me, but so there's more improvements going on there, and
inside and outside.
Yeah, I know that's important to you because, use the example, the wrestling tournament that is here in Huntington every year. That's a big deal for Huntington.
It's huge. When we had the WSAZ tournament and when we have this, also Mike Hamrick helped us attract a indoor track meet of several colleges over at the indoor practice facility. You couldn't get into a restaurant around here. The entire downtown area was just so dynamic. Just building on something that I was saying earlier, when people think about coming into Huntington and just how different it's going to be over the next 5 to 7 years, that they won't recognize it. We had a group that came in August. His municipal league officials from cities all over the state came into the downtown, and there were some who hadn't been here in 10 to 12 years, and they said they didn't recognize the downtown area, just how dynamic it was and how busy on late into the evening and how safe, how clean, how bright it was. Those are the types of things, I mean, particularly with what we're going to be seeing developed on either side of Marshall University, it's going to be even more dynamic.
Yeah, that's my next question, because you're trying to do that right now to improve. Here,
what we were talking about in the speech, there were really 4 pillars that we're building upon. This is fiscal stability, public safety, economic growth, and innovation. And we talked about what we've been doing with those things. The one area that is what we've been doing, but it's going to be a new focus is on innovation, because folks around the country, we don't really talk about this that much, because when we have a tendency to talk about, well, look, all these people are coming here to talk about us, then on social media they start blowing up and saying about all the problems that are here. Well, of course, that's why they're coming here, because we have problems that these other cities have, and we're doing things to address them. But everything comes down to fiscal stability. You remember 3 years ago where the problems that we were having, and we had to lay some people off, but because we made some of those real hard decisions, we have the money to be able to do a lot of things now. And most important is that there's been investment throughout the community, but what we're doing down at Marshall, and what this show focuses on with sports and such, what is happening down and around Marshall is going to draw students, high school students from all over the state here. And as they come here, I remember when I was in school, we would all go to Morgantown, and that was where people would end up going to school. They're starting to come to Huntington, and people are starting to see what's so special right here. That's also from a public safety standpoint. We have to guard jealously what has been developed here. It's special, it's precious, and anybody who thinks they're going to come in here and disrupt it, pity those poor fools. We have the full support of everybody within the federal government from a law enforcement standpoint, and certainly the county and state. I'm really proud of the team that we have put together.
Huntington Mayor Steve Williams is joining us on the program. Of course, you can watch the entire speech, the City of Huntington's website. I believe you've got it, your Facebook page. Sure.
We have it on the website. We also have it on the Facebook page. It was live streamed. Some folks have asked, why 10 o'clock in the morning?
Yeah, that was my big question.
Well, when we were looking at it, it was on Valentine's Day, and I thought, this is just going to blow up if we do it late on Friday. We could have waited until Tuesday to do it. Honestly, what we found, you would understand this better than I do. When we have done middle of the week speeches, it got no play whatsoever. If we were doing something on a Thursday or a Friday, it got all sorts of play all through the weekend, an awful lot of attention that was going, and that's where we decided, all right, let's try it on Friday, and if we would do it Friday morning and then get the noon news, we get the afternoon drive time, we'd also get the evening news and the late evening news and the Saturday morning newspapers. So we'll see.
Huntington Mayor Steve Williams with us on the program, and the development near Marshall is exciting to me, to be honest with you.
Well, you know that I've been talking about this since really when I was running for office, about the ACF property. We didn't think that we would ever think that we'd be able to get Flint pigments. That was just written off at the very beginning, so we thought, all right, we'll just start looking at ACF. And as I said earlier, when that came available, Paul, sometimes I'd rather be lucky than good. I mean, it just seemed providential that all of this time that we were working, and then boom, Flint says, we're ready to sell. And then we started negotiating with them and got an okay on the 8 acres just for the baseball stadium. And then, boom, ACF is saying, we were about to hire a broker, and if you all want it, then here are the terms. Okay. And then ACF is a very interesting corporation. We negotiated with them for over 2 years. Yeah. But there was never a point where we thought those negotiations would stop. It was just there were an awful lot of things that we had to review and get, and then so those things coming together. Now just think, it's nearly 80 acres from Fifth Avenue all the way to the river that can be developed. That is huge. It's the largest developable commercial space in a city in the state of West Virginia, the largest within all of this Ohio River Valley. That's the game changer for us. That's the game changer. It changes the game for Marshall. It changes the game for our hospitals. It changes the game for everybody.
And that's going to do it for this edition of the show.
Well, that's the way to close it out.
Yeah,
I was
way.
even looking at Spence, and he was counting it down. He won't speak to us.
He won't speak to us anymore. Well, sometimes he speaks to us. We just don't hear him because he doesn't turn the microphone on.
Hey, here I am.
Hey, it's good to know. How many years have you been in radio now? 4?
By this age, how many years had you been in?
I think I was. I think I started a little younger than him, maybe. Just a bit. Okay, how old are you, Spencer?
22.
22. Okay. Yeah, close.
Right about the same.
Just about. Yeah, just about.
See what you've got to look forward to? Oh, Spencer, you got a wild ride in front of you, buddy.
We should talk off the air about the speech I gave his class about getting into broadcasting. That'll make your toes curl. For Spencer Dupuis, for Huntington Mayor Steve Williams, I'm Paul Swann. Thanks for joining us on today's edition of The Drive, ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930.
WRBC Huntington, W227BS Huntington, your flagship home of the Marshall Thundering Herd and The Drive with Paul Swann, ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930.